Hello folks, I'm Douglas from Leafland, and today we're just going to look at some understocking, or root pruning people call it, of the understock. And what the understock is what the rootstock is. It's grown all the way up to here on a high work cherry. This particular tree is. You see all the fluffy bits there? That there is your understock. Now you want to remove that this time of the year, being spring, with all the growth happening. And there is two methods. There is the shouldn't do, which is just rub it off, which you can only do when they're young. If you do it when they're older, you do that, you wind up tearing a little hole in the tree, which is not so good. Which is where a good clean pair of secateurs comes in, and you just prune them back. So you just take all of that off. So you're pruning out that stuff there. Try not to cut too much of the collar, and they will heal back quite quickly, rather than tearing them out and putting a hole in them like that one there is. Now if you leave the stock on, it'll grow directly straight up. This particular tree here is a high work cherry, it's a weeping cherry. Now by leaving that stock on, it winds up growing directly straight up like that. It'll have a white flower, and the problem is, especially when the trees are young, if you leave the understock on, the graft is what you're after with all the lovely flowers, can die. And I've seen quite large trees actually die by people leaving those on through not knowing. Now when you chop off, that one's been left way too long, so you need to use a saw for that. And you cut that back. Don't cut it down too far, because you want it to heal quite nicely. Nice union on it. That's us. Now, once you remove that, best practice is to put pruner's paste onto that. If you haven't got that, you can make do with an acrylic paint with a little bit of copper. Copper is a little bit like penicillin for trees. Fixes 9 out of 10 problems, but not everything. And that will seal it over, because you don't want any water to get in there. And then when the new growth starts popping off from here or anywhere else, like when they're little, you can just rub it off with your thumb while they're small. But if you leave them too long, they can get a bit big. But once that's all pruned back, it does well. Now if you don't do it when they're young, those tops will die, the tree will be unhealthy. So all the energy is coming from the roots, coming up the trunk and onto this piece and growing out, and that's why that was so vigorous. They're a vigorous grower to start with, but all the good nutrients are going in there, where you actually wanted it into the head with the flowers that you're after. Folks, with this one here, it is a Japanese maple, Acer palmatum blackwood. So you've got this beautiful red looking tree. Now if you come all the way down to here, it's a low work graft. So this part here is palmatum, and as you can see there, you've got this little green shoot coming away. If you leave that, that's going to grow into a really big tree. And when you want red, you're not really wanting green as well. So when they're small like that, all you need is just your thumb and it pops off nice and clean. So during spring, on some trees, they'll pop out all the way, and if you want them like this is, we've got a nice clean stem. You just run your hand down and take them off while they're small, causes no damage and gives you a nice tidy tree. So you wind up with a beautiful red tree instead of a red and green tree. This is a Prunus pendula rosea, so the graft there has died, and that is because of this rootstock's got away. And it's and as you can see, they can get very fluffy in that, but all the energy is going into here instead of into the top there. And you can see the union had healed up nicely, it was doing well. This here's got away and the top died. So these trees are not standard Leafland quality. These are out of our seconds pile, our trade me trees we'll say, our special stuff. Because with our good stock, we keep them nice and clean and a good quality product at all times. Now the next part I'll talk about is citrus trees. Okay, with citrus, you'll always tell the rootstock on that, that's real easy. Because citrus is grafted onto one of two types of stock. It is Flying Dragon if it is a dwarf variety, whereas these ones are, which is your standard citrus that you'll have in your gardens, and you'll see at garden centres, Triticulafolia. My pronunciation might not be so good, but as you see there, just chop that off nice and cleanly, and you can always tell because of the 3 leaves and big nasty thorns. So not the nicest thing to have in your garden, especially when you're after a beautiful fruit tree. And then this one here, same thing. As you can see, it's come off from below the graft. You just cut it back nice and tight, and she's all good. If unfortunately you've left it too long and you wind up with a big branch you've got to cut off, do paint it, or otherwise you'll find a orange to a yellowy sort of sap will come out of them, and that's not what you want. That's the fluids from the cambium layer leaking out. But besides that, folks, this time of the year you need to get it done, so later down the track you wind up with a beautiful shaped tree and the type of tree you're after, not some understock. When it comes to magnolias, they are one of the few trees that you can let the undergrowth grow if you want and wind up with 2 trees, but in general chop it off. The fruit trees and that there, such as your peaches, nectarines and stuff like that, if you let the rootstock grow too much, your tops do die, and we have had customers have that with their apricots and stuff. Citrus isn't so bad, but the worst one is cherries. Those there will definitely cope if you let the rootstock get away too much.